I found out I was written out of my parents' will at a Chili's in front of my brother's new girlfriend, while my mom tried to change the subject to the spinach artichoke dip. I'm Sarah. I'm 33 now, but this started about 2 years ago when I was 31. At the time, I was working as a commercial lending analyst at a regional bank in Columbus, Ohio. My husband Mark, who's 35 and a project manager at a construction firm, and I had been married for 3 years. We weren't rich, but we were comfortable. We'd bought a modest house in Grove City, we had about $18,000 in savings, and we were paying down my student loans at a steady pace. My younger brother Tyler was 29. He'd spent most of his 20s finding himself, which meant a string of jobs that never lasted more than 6 months, a semester and a half of community college, and a lot of time playing video games in our parents' basement. My parents, Dave and Linda, had run a landscaping business for about 25 years. Nothing fancy: mowing, mulching, some hardscaping. They'd netted maybe $70,000 to $80,000 a year in good years. But the land they owned the shop on had become valuable. A developer offered them $620,000 for it in early 22, and they took it. They rented a smaller space for the remaining equipment and planned to wind down over the next couple years. I helped them with the sale. I organized their financial documents, sat in on meetings with their accountant, even helped them understand the tax implications. It took about 3 months of back and forth. During that whole time, my mom kept saying, "Don't worry, honey, we're going to take care of both of you." I didn't expect half, I really didn't, but I figured maybe they'd pay off my remaining $34,000 in student loans as a gesture, or maybe set aside something for when they passed. I wasn't thinking about specific numbers. I just thought they meant what they said, that they'd take care of both of us. The dinner at Chili's was in April 2022, about 2 weeks after the sale closed. It was supposed to be a celebration. Tyler brought his new girlfriend, Megan, who I'd met once before. She was nice enough, quiet. About 10 minutes after we ordered, my dad cleared his throat and said, "So, your mother and I wanted to talk to you both about the sale and how we've decided to handle things." He sounded like he was about to announce a promotion. My mom was staring very hard at her water glass. "We've set things up so that Tyler will receive the full amount from the sale," my dad said. "He's going to use it to get himself established, maybe buy a house, start a business. He needs the runway." I remember my face getting hot. I looked at Tyler, who was suddenly very interested in his napkin. "What do you mean, the full amount?" I asked. "We left you out of the will, Sarah," my mom said quickly, like she was ripping off a bandage. "But it's not because we don't love you, it's because you don't need it. You have a good job. Mark has a good job. You're going to be fine. We discussed it with our attorney," my dad added. "Everything's legal and proper." I sat there for what felt like a long time. Megan was looking at her plate. Mark had put his fork down and was watching me. "So you're giving him $620,000, I said, "and I get nothing." "We're giving him the opportunity to have what you already have," my dad said. "The spinach dip's here," my mom said. I didn't eat. I excused myself to the bathroom, splashed water on my face, and came back. I told Mark I wanted to leave. He didn't argue. On the drive home, I didn't cry. I was too numb. Mark asked if I wanted to talk about it, and I said no. We went to bed without saying much else. Over the next few weeks, the reality settled in. It wasn't really about the money. I mean, it was partly about the money, but mostly it was the message. My parents had looked at me, someone who had never asked them for a dime since I was 18, who had worked 2 jobs in college, who had helped them navigate the biggest financial transaction of their lives, and decided I didn't deserve even a token of gratitude. Meanwhile, Tyler, who had lived rent-free in their basement until he was 27, who had borrowed money from them at least a dozen times and never paid it back, who couldn't hold a job, Tyler was the one who needed the runway. I didn't cut them off. I just pulled back. I stopped calling every Sunday. I skipped a couple of family gatherings with vague excuses. When my mom texted, I'd respond, but it was short. Tyler, meanwhile, moved fast. By June, he'd partnered with a guy named Derek to buy into a sports bar in the short north. I later found out he put $250,000 into it. By August, he'd bought a new F-150 $58,000. He was posting pictures on Instagram of bottle service and new sneakers. I tried not to look, but my mom would occasionally mention things in texts, clearly trying to show me that Tyler was doing well, like that would make me feel better. Around October, I got promoted to commercial lending officer at the bank. More responsibility, better pay. I was now reviewing loan applications for small businesses. It was a step up. Then, in January 2023, about 9 months after the sale, an application came across my desk. The business was called Third and High Sports Grill. The applicant was Derek Matheson, with Tyler as a guarantor. They were asking for a $175,000 business line of credit to cover operating expenses. I opened the financials and felt my stomach drop. Tyler's personal financial statement showed he had about $68,000 left. He'd gone through $552,000 in 9 months. The bar was losing $11,000 a month. Derek had put in almost nothing. Tyler had funded nearly the entire operation. There were personal expenses I could see: the truck, a 4200 watch, multiple vacations, 23,000 in unspecified personal withdrawals. I had to recuse myself. I walked into my manager's office and told her my brother was a guarantor on the application. She reassigned it. Another officer denied the loan 2 days later. I never told Tyler I'd seen it, but now I knew. And it ate at me. In March 2023, my dad called me. He'd been having some issues: frequent urination, fatigue, back pain. He'd finally gone to the doctor. They'd found something. Biopsies confirmed it was prostate cancer. It had spread slightly beyond the prostate, but the oncologist said it was still very treatable. They recommended radiation and hormone therapy. The good news was my parents had Medicare and a supplemental plan due my dad's retirement from a previous factory job. The bad news was that the out-of-pocket costs, the co-pays, the specialist visits, the medications not fully covered, were estimated at around $35,000 to $45,000 over the course of treatment. My parents had some savings from before the sale, maybe $40,000, but they'd also been helping Tyler with his truck payment and his rent because the bar wasn't generating any income for him yet. My mom called me crying in April. "Sarah, I hate to ask, I really do, but we're short. Your dad starts treatment next month and we don't have enough to cover everything." I told her I'd think about it. Mark and I talked about it for 3 days. He said it was my call, but he pointed out that if we gave them $30,000 or $40,000, our savings would be nearly wiped out. We'd have nothing left for emergencies. And he asked a question I'd been avoiding. If you give them this money, what changes? Do they stop treating Tyler like the only child who matters? I didn't have an answer. I asked my mom to come over on a Saturday so we could talk. Just her and my dad. I didn't tell them why exactly. I just said I wanted to discuss things. They arrived at 11 a.m. My dad looked thinner, tired. My mom had dark circles under her eyes. I made coffee and we sat at the kitchen table. "Before we talk about the money," I said, "I need to tell you something, and I need you to hear me out before you respond." My mom looked nervous. My dad just watched me. "I know about Tyler's finances," I said. "I know he's gone through over $500,000 in less than a year. I know the bar is losing money every month. I know about the truck, the watch, the vacations. I know he came to my bank for a loan and got denied." My mom's face went white. "Oh, do you?" "It doesn't matter how. What matters is that you gave him everything you had, and he burned through it. And now you're coming to me, the daughter you explicitly left out of the will because I didn't need it to fix the problem." My dad looked at the table. My mom's eyes were wet. "That's not fair, Sarah," she said. "We didn't know." "Exactly," I said. "You didn't know because you didn't ask. You just handed him $620,000 and trusted him to figure it out when he's never figured anything out in his life, and you told me I didn't need your help. So you can't be surprised that I'm confused about why you're asking for it now." The room was quiet for a long time. My dad finally spoke. His voice was rough. "What do you want to do?" "I'll pay the medical bills," I said, "directly to the cancer center and the pharmacy. Every invoice, I'll cover it. I'll set up an arrangement with their billing department." My mom started to cry with relief, but I wasn't finished. "But I'm not giving you or Tyler a check. I'm not bailing out the bar. I'm not funding his lifestyle. And I need you both to understand something. I'm doing this because you're my parents and you're sick, not because what you did was okay. It wasn't, and I'm not pretending it was anymore." My mom reached for my hand. I let her take it. "Tyler doesn't know about any of this," my dad asked. "He knows you're getting treatment. He doesn't know you asked me for money. That's up to you whether you tell him." My dad nodded slowly. We worked out the logistics over the next week. I contacted the James Cancer Hospital's billing department and set up a payment arrangement. It ended up being about $38,000 total over 6 months of treatment. It wiped out most of our savings, but Mark and I could rebuild. We had our incomes. We'd be fine. That's what my parents had said about me, right? I'd be fine. My dad finished treatment in October 2023. His latest scans have been clean. The doctors are cautiously optimistic. Tyler's bar closed in December. Derek apparently left town with whatever cash was left in the business account. Tyler lost everything he'd put in. He's now working at a warehouse making $19 an hour and living in an apartment he can barely afford. He called me once, in January, to apologize. It was the most sincere conversation we'd ever had. He said, "I didn't earn any of it, and I wasted all of it." I didn't know what to say, so I just told him I was glad he called. My parents have slowly started to come around. My dad called me in February, just to talk. Not about money, not about Tyler, just about how he was feeling, how my mom was doing, whether Mark and I had thought about kids. At the end of the call, he said, "Sarah, I think we made a mistake. I'm not ready to say all the things I need to say yet, but I know we hurt you, and I'm sorry. It wasn't a perfect apology. It didn't fix everything. But it was the first time in my life I heard my dad admit he was wrong about something involving me and Tyler. I don't know if my relationship with my family will ever be what it was. Maybe that's okay. Maybe it shouldn't be. I learned that being the responsible one doesn't mean you owe people your resilience. and I learned that sometimes the people who say you'll be fine are just making it easier to justify not being fair. I paid $38,000 for my dad's cancer treatment. I'd do it again, but I'm done pretending that love means having no boundaries. My parents taught me that lesson. I just wish it hadn't cost so much.